what we're going to do, most test pits are going to be 1 metre by 1 metre unless you've got a good reason for wanting it a bit bigger, for example, depending on your target and how you decided to place it. The reason we go for 1 metre by 1 metre is it's always extendable if you find you want to later, but there's enough room to get in and work without it becoming an unmanageable thing. And what we will do is we'll take the turf off, and we have got a mini digger, so with any luck we can get that to come and scrape it off. The reason being is a mini digger will take it off a lot more cleanly than we can with spades. Otherwise, you'll just struggle through the frozen tundra. I'm hoping that Spearwood Jackson rather than B&Q have provided your spades. And then once we've got that off, we'll be down on our first layer. Now, some of you have done before and recognise a few faces from the last series of digging, so you'll understand about layers and context and things, but there are a few people here who won't have done much before at all. So just to start with, we're going to dig in what's called spits. And this is Mick Aston's preferred methodology for test pitting, which is you start by taking off, I'll come back with a proviso, you start by taking off the first 10 centimetres worth of the layer number 1. Now I say a proviso, obviously if you hit some Roman wall at 2 centimetres, you don't then hack that off as well. Okay? So if you see a change in the soil, if it starts feeling different or looking different, there's a change in colour or texture or just some noticeable change, you stop at that level, and if you've got any worries or questions you ask, and someone will say, oh yes, there's your layer, and you excavate to that. But should you find nothing, and you probably won't in the first bit because of plough soil, you take the first 10 centimetres. All the fines that come out with that soil from the first 10 centimetres get put in the same fines tray. And at the end of your 10 centimetres, when you've got a lovely neat hole that's exactly 10 centimetres all over, all of those go in a bag. It says trench number, or test pit number, whatever number you've given it, and then spit 1. And then you'll do the next spit down with a separate fines tray, a separate bag, just to keep everything really separate. And the reason we do this in spits is just in case.
Cassie, can I just stop you a second?
Yes.
We've got sieves with us.
Lovely.
What Mick would normally do is sieve that material. Is that what
that's fine. We can sieve every single spit.
Okay.
That's good. It means we miss nothing as well.
The general thing is we will be sieving in this case.
And that, tell you what, it's very reassuring actually sieving, because you know you're not going to miss any vital piece of information, because sometimes the tendency is to go so slowly just in case there's a tiny bit of pot and you can't quite see it. Whereas at least if we're sieving, you've got a second backup person who can re-look through your stuff. So as we keep going down in spits, we're going to keep them all separate, and we'll keep the fines all separate. And the further down you get, the more likely you are to encounter a real layer, a real context in the ground. And when you see that change, talk to the people around you, call over one of us guys, and we'll look and we'll say, yeah, you've definitely got it. And then what you need to do at that point is excavate. So if the layer undulates, you follow it. And you follow it down. The important thing is not to hack into anything, because it will be a different context and a different context number. So at some point in our test bits, we will have the whole of this layer exposed. It's a real archaeology layer, not one we invented in a spit. And at that point, our strategy has to change slightly. Now, I don't know what setup we have and at what point we're excavating to, because obviously it's all to do with
I talked about it with Phil. Phil's kind of in charge of the archaeological overview, as it were, for this. And we're talking about maybe just 4 10 centimetre spits and see how we go.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about, as you're doing that recording?
Yeah.
I talked to Lorraine, and Lorraine said she was happy for you to do it with notebooks today. Phil's bringing Wessex context sheets tomorrow.
What I thought we'd do is a register. So this
Would you like to just, so as you're digging down, Cassie will talk to you about, you're not just digging, you're also recording.
Yeah. But generally, there's only really a point recording if there's a change. So if all the first 3 spits are all topsoil, which they probably will be, then the description on your context register, which is basically a list of numbers. So if you're test pit 1, your context will go 101, which is your spit 1, effectively. Topsoil, no pot. Spit 2, topsoil, no pot. And then eventually it'll go, spit 3, pot, hooray! And then but what you need to do on this context register is describe it. So what is your topsoil like? We need an approximation of colour. And normally it'll be something like mid-brown or light brown, terribly exciting descriptions like that. And then you need to kind of identify what kind of soil you're in. So is it loam, is it clay? And I'll wander around and help people work out what they've got if anyone's in any doubt. And then you need sort of Once you come down on the archaeology, you need to start describing the archaeology more context register. So say you've got what looks to be a curve, a bit of a pit or something, you would measure it, so you know what it looks like in plan, and you would write down circular feature, approximately X centimetres across, colour of the feature is before you dig it, and then you would carry around it. And when you come to take it out, you would describe that separately. And basically every new change you've got will get its own context number and will describe it. In terms of recording, there are two things we record apart from descriptions, and that's the plans, what things look like on the floor, and the sections, which is what things look like on the wall. Plans, we got permatrace today, or is that
We
my
have.
6? Woohoo! Plans we will be drawing, and
I've also got 6H pencils, which you asked.
I did. We've got scale rules, I've got 3.
Yeah, fantastic.
Brilliant. So we should have at least one drawing kit per trench. Actually, the best way of doing plan recording is if I go around and show people where the scales are and what I mean by what. But basically, we're going to draw a plan of it, and then we're going to pick either one or two of your test bit balls, depending if you're finding something interesting, and we will put a tape across the top and measure down, and we will do a beautiful section drawing of the wall. And they will go into the archive, so we'll know exactly what was found in your trench.
Okay.
And the point of recording is you are the only people who will ever be able to dig these holes. Once you've dug them, they're a jumble, backfilled. No, there's no more archaeological information to get out. So the recording and the digging is something that we can only do once. Once you guys have done it, the site now only exists as your recording. So your descriptions of the context and your drawings are the only things that are going to exist for what you've done. So it's very important that that is correct and good. So if you're in any doubt, come and find one of us, and we'll make sure it looks like the hole in the ground.
You just had a masterclass on test bits from Cassie. Thank you very much. Small round of applause for her.